Like, I have this piece in Flagstaff. Well, I don't know if I really have it because
Yeah, what's going on there?
it's not paid off yet. The note is due in about 6 months. And they keep asking your dad, and he's like, I'm not going to make a plan till blah. And then it's like, I'm not going to make a plan till blah. Christine had her house. Meri has built a business, but she didn't use family money. She built that herself. So she and I are both like, this represents basically the only asset we would be taking from the marriage.
Hey friends, welcome back. Last time, we explored how Meri and Janelle were finally able to reach an agreement with Cody and Robyn over the long-disputed Coyote Pass property. After months, if not years, of tension, the land has now been divided evenly, with each party holding a 25% stake. On the surface, it looks like a fair and equal split. Technically, Cody and Robyn's combined share comes to 50% since they're legally married, but individually, it breaks down to 25% each. Just like Meri and Janelle. At first glance, this might seem like a simple resolution. But for Meri and Janelle, this outcome is actually a significant win. Before this settlement, neither of them was guaranteed any real equity in the land. In fact, had things continued in the direction they were going, Meri stood to walk away with almost nothing. The risk was real, and she was by far the most vulnerable in this equation. So yes, from that perspective, this deal marks a major shift, and a necessary one. However, as we look a little deeper into how the property is held, something subtle but important emerges. It's a move that may seem like a footnote on paper, but it carries real-world consequences and potentially long-term implications. It's not immediately obvious unless you're paying attention, but Cody and Robyn made a strategic decision when they signed the deed. Whether it was intentional or simply out of caution, well, you can draw your own conclusions. But given the pattern, it's hard not to think this was calculated. They chose to structure their ownership under what's legally known as community property, with rights of survivorship. Now, that might sound like legal jargon, but it's a powerful designation. What it means is this. If Cody were to pass away, Robyn would automatically inherit his portion of the land, without going through probate, without delay, and without interference. And the same goes the other way around. If Robyn were to die, Cody would become the sole owner of both their shares. No court proceedings, no estate battles, just an automatic transfer. At face value, this might seem like a practical move for a married couple. But when viewed in the broader context, especially considering Cody's relationships with his ex-wives and children, it reveals a deeper layer. This legal structure effectively shields their ownership from any outside claims. None of Cody's children, including those he shares with Christine, Janelle, or Meri, would have a path to inherit his share of the land. That includes Truly and every other child not tied directly to Robyn. So even though all four parties technically hold equal shares on paper, the way Cody and Robyn chose to frame their ownership creates a buffer, a kind of invisible shield. It ensures that no matter what happens, their portion of the property remains solely within their control. And that detail, though quietly embedded in legal language, changes the entire dynamic. It begs the question, was this simply about protecting each other, or was it something more? A strategic safeguard? A final move to preserve control? Whatever the motive, it's clear that Cody and Robyn's decision wasn't random, and it leaves Meri and Janelle in a position where, although they finally have equal footing on paper, the deeper power still rests with the couple who chose to lock their portion down in a way no one else can touch. And maybe that was the point all along. Cody and Robyn, by holding their shares as a married unit, collectively control 50% of the entire property. Meanwhile, Meri and Janelle each hold only 25%. That difference may not seem drastic on the surface, but it places Cody and Robyn in a much stronger position. Their shared vote carries half the weight in any decision. And that means, from a practical standpoint, they hold more sway over what happens next, particularly if and when the land is eventually sold. If the plan was truly to divide the land and sell it quickly, the legal structure they've chosen makes little sense. Creating a survivorship clause wouldn't be necessary in a short-term transaction. In fact, it complicates things in a way that suggests they're thinking more long-term, or perhaps planning for contingencies others haven't considered. And that's where Cody's real advantage begins to show. By ensuring their ownership is structured this way, Cody and Robyn essentially become the gatekeepers. Meri and Janelle, each with just a quarter stake, must now negotiate with a unified front that already controls half the decision-making power. That includes key choices like how the property is valued, what price it should go on the market for, and when that process begins. Every step forward requires working with Cody and Robyn as a block, while Meri and Janelle, unless they act in total alignment, remain two separate voices trying to be heard. But beneath the numbers lies something more emotional, more revealing. In making this decision, Cody sends a clear message. Even in the division of shared assets, he is choosing who matters more to him. Because with this legal setup, if Cody were to pass away, his portion of the property would go directly and solely to Robyn. No one else would have a claim. Not Meri, not Janelle, not any of his other children. It's a powerful statement, not in words, but in paper and ink. And in contrast, there's a different legal path they could have taken. They might have signed as tenants in common and then crafted a binding agreement stating that, should any of them pass, their share would be divided among the remaining parties. Such documents exist, and they are not uncommon. But Cody chose a different route, one that excludes the others entirely from his portion, locking them out of any future claim. To me, it feels like his way of saying, fine, if I have to share this now, I'll still make sure Robyn's protected above the rest. It's not loud or obvious, but it's there, lingering in the background like an unspoken truth. And it's hard not to see it as a subtle act of control, a way of keeping. One hand on the wheel, even if he's no longer around, it also shields Robyn in other important ways. She won't be forced to navigate inheritance claims from Cody's ex-wives or face challenges from his children outside of their own shared family. That includes his minor daughter, and it even prevents someone like Christine, if she ever wanted to come back and place a legal claim, from touching this property. The survivorship clause effectively builds a wall, one that no one on the outside can easily breach. In the end, the story being told here isn't just about land. It's about legacy, control, and the quiet ways people draw lines between loyalty and protection. Cody and Robyn's decision echoes far beyond paperwork. It reshapes the emotional and legal landscape for everyone left standing on the other side. So basically, truly can't ever make a claim on this land. Christine can't either. None of Cody's other children can touch it. In a very real way, this setup makes a loud, quiet statement. Robyn is the choice, his final choice. And honestly, if that's how he feels, that's totally his right. But let's not pretend it doesn't speak volumes about how Cody views the rest of his family. He doesn't see his other kids or former wives as part of his world anymore. It's like they've been quietly cut out. Maybe he felt pressured to align himself fully with Robyn. Who knows what went on behind closed doors? But in the long run, this legal move wasn't necessary. It wasn't about practicality. It feels more like strategy, a symbolic show of power, wrapped in paperwork. And here's where things get even more interesting. Beyond the survivorship clause and the way it protects Robyn, the ownership itself is based on what's called an undivided interest. That means Cody and Robyn collectively own 50%, while Janelle and Meri each hold 25%. So they're all technically co-owners, sharing a legal claim to the whole thing, but with their own percentages in the total value. When the land is eventually sold, Cody and Robyn will receive half of the earnings, while Janelle and Meri each get a quarter. But because it's undivided, none of them own a specific piece of the land. No physical section is theirs alone. They don't hold a little corner of 2 acres, fenced off and privately theirs. It's shared legally and physically. Still, they can sell their stake. So if Janelle decides she's done and wants out entirely, she has the option to sell her, share to someone else, even if she doesn't own a single square foot that's specifically marked as hers. So if Janelle reaches a point where she says, "I'm done, I want out, and I want you to buy me out," she can absolutely sell her share. And that buyer doesn't even have to be someone in the family. It could be an outside third party. Suddenly, someone completely unrelated could own a piece of this land. The same thing goes for Cody and Robyn. If they decide they need fast cash and want out, they can sell their entire 50% share to someone they don't even know. Cody could, in theory, sell it to someone like Brian Caldwell. And just like that, Brian becomes the co-owner of half the land. It's strange when you think about it that way. On paper, sure, it makes sense. They probably wanted everything clearly spelled out, so when the land sells, everyone knows exactly how much they're getting. That part I get, but honestly, if you ask me, they should have just created an LLC. That would have made the entire process smoother, cleaner, and more protected for everyone involved. With an LLC, they'd all be listed as members. Cody and Robyn could hold 50%, Janelle and Meri 25% each. No worries about inheritance laws or how marriage factors into ownership. An LLC would handle decision-making, tax issues, and income more efficiently. It's a common setup for rental properties and shared land holdings. Even the previous landowners had it structured through an LLC, so it's odd they didn't follow that lead. Another option, which also would have made sense, would have been owning it as tenants in common. That way, each person holds their individual share, and if one passes away, their portion would go to their chosen heirs or beneficiaries, not automatically to a spouse. It offers more personal control and avoids the imbalance we're seeing now, because in the current setup, if Cody were to die today, Robyn would instantly gain his 50%, making her the dominant owner, holding far more power than either Janelle or Meri. And that brings up something that's hard to ignore. Why do Cody and Robyn get to act as one unit when it benefits them, but then sign the deed in a way that turns them into individuals when it comes to death and inheritance? It's like they want to be both a couple and two separate people, depending on which role gives them more advantage. That's where it starts to feel less like smart planning and more like strategic positioning. What really gets under my skin is how, on one hand, they present themselves as a united married couple, but on the other, the way they've set this up screams, if I die, she gets everything. It's like they want to play both roles depending on what gives them more power in the moment. If they truly saw themselves as a unit, why not just claim 1/3 of the property instead of dividing it this way? Honestly, I can't imagine. Robyn putting up a full quarter of the money when it came time to pay for the land. I can't say that with complete certainty, but based on Cody's past behavior, it really doesn't seem likely. He's always insisting that it's his money. He never once talks about Robyn contributing financially, so did she really put in 25%? Because the only way this entire setup is fair, truly fair, is if every single person who paid into the land did so equally. Same amount, from the same pool of money, split evenly across all parties. Only then would a 25-25-50 split make any sense at all. And honestly, the way they've structured it just seems like another odd, unnecessary power move. It feels like a strategy. Robyn gets to maintain her status as queen bee, and Cody gets to reinforce that dynamic. Even though Janelle and Meri are finally walking away with something, they're still being subtly reminded that they're not on the same level. It's like a backhanded gesture. Sure, you're getting your share, but don't forget who's still in charge. That kind of positioning just reeks of narcissism, and I really tried to understand this by looking into how people typically hold property. I researched different real estate setups, and the moment I saw how they structured it, my first reaction was, wait, aren't they just going to sell? Some folks online are speculating that this means they're planning to build something together, but I don't see that happening at all. I don't get that vibe in the slightest. From what I see, this move isn't about construction or unity. It looks like they're setting things up with the intention to sell and divide the profits when the time comes. And if Cody and Robyn ever needed to cash out quickly, this structure makes that process far easier for them. This setup gives Cody and Robyn a much easier path to liquidate. Someone could just step in and buy out their shares, whether that's Janelle, Meri, or even an outside party. But the part that really sticks with me is the timing. Why did this happen when it did? Why make this agreement in September, the exact same month they were prepping to sell their other house? Was there a deeper reason behind that moment? Could it have been tied to Cody's loan-to-value ratio or debt-to-income calculations? Maybe he needed to lower his legal or insurance liability somehow, even though there wasn't a loan out against the land. Taxes still had to be paid. So if there was a monthly amount being deducted from the total taxes, maybe restructuring the ownership this way made it appear like Cody was paying less. Was that the play here? To make the financials look lighter on paper? Honestly, the timing is just strange, dividing the property and selling the house at the same time. Unless all four of them had quietly agreed to finalize everything in September, divide the land, list the house, and walk away with everything tied up neatly in one sweep. It's possible that was the plan. Tie up all financial and legal loose. Ends at once and finally move on. But still, what doesn't sit right with me is that this specific structure gives Cody and Robyn even more control. It shields them from legal claims, whether from ex-wives or even his own children. Christine couldn't come after the land for Truly, even if she wanted to. And honestly, I keep wondering how that must feel for his other kids, to realize that this is how their father sees them. It's like, you're my child, sure, but not my heir. That role belongs to Robyn and her kids. I wasn't raised in a divorced family, but this just feels cold. Really cold. I haven't personally been through the experience of inheritance, and honestly, it's not something I place much value on. But the thing is, this family talks about it constantly, almost like it's always lingering in the background. And because it's such a recurring topic, I can't help but think about how it must feel for the rest of the family. How these decisions land emotionally, especially on the people no longer in Cody's inner circle. How must Christine feel, seeing all of this unfold, knowing that while they're splitting assets and rearranging ownership, she's still having to fight him just to get child support? That contrast must sting. It's one of the many complications of polygamy that often go unseen, the legal and emotional power imbalance that hits the women hardest, especially those who were never legally married to him. So for Janelle and Meri, even in their exit from the marriage, the power structure doesn't shift in their favor. Robyn still holds more leverage, more control, simply because of that one legal connection. And that's what gets to me. Even during the division of something so tangible, land, value, legacy, they couldn't just split it equally. It always had to tip in favor of Cody and Robyn. There always had to be a hierarchy, a reminder of who still calls the shots. But I guess if there's one small silver lining, it's that Janelle and Meri did get their shares in the end. That part, at least, is something. Anyway, I'd really love to hear your thoughts on this. How does it all sit with you? Drop your feelings down in the comments below. Don't forget to give this video a thumbs up if you found it insightful, and please subscribe to the channel if you haven't already. Hit the bell too, so you're always notified when a new video drops. Thanks so much for watching, and I'll see you next time. Bye, guys!